Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to discuss the anatomy of the inguinal canal. This video is in continuation to the previous video on the anterior abdominal wall layers and the muscles of the abdominal wall. So if you have not yet watched those videos, it is right time to have a look at them. The links of those videos will be there in the description box below. Welcome all, myself Dr. Ankit Khandelwal, MBBS and MS in Anatomy. This is my YouTube channel Anatomy Explained. In this channel we try to discuss all the important parts of the human anatomy in detail. So if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, it is high time you consider subscribing it. Now let us come to the topic of the day, that is the inguinal canal anatomy. So inguinal canal anatomy, so first of all, where it is located, obviously as the name suggests, it is located in the inguinal region. Okay, fair enough. Now why is there a canal in the inguinal region? Because during development the testes, they need to come out of the body, so they take a canal that is known as inguinal canal, and then they come out into the body, into the scrotal sac. So therefore the reason of the inguinal canal is embryological, is a developmental process or embryological. Okay, fine. Now why do we need to study the anatomy of inguinal canal? We need to study the anatomy of inguinal canal now because the reason that the applied part, that is the inguinal hernias, are very common. So therefore the treatment of hernias is mainly surgical. So while doing any surgeries, you all know that the basic anatomy is needed. So while doing any surgery, the anatomy of that part is needed. So therefore we are trying to learn over here the anatomy of the inguinal canal. So let us move on now to the basic anatomy of inguinal canal. So first and foremost of things, that how is it formed, where it is formed, and what is the exact location. So as we have done in the abdominal wall also, that if this is the bony landmark, that is your anterior superior iliac spine, part of the iliac crest, and if suppose this is over here the pubic symphysis with its pubic crest, and this dot is representing the pubic tubercle. Now as you have seen in the muscles also, that is the external oblique muscle, the lower upturned margin of the external oblique aponeurosis from anterior superior iliac spine to the pubic tubercle, that represents a thickened area of the external oblique aponeurosis, and that is your inguinal ligament, also known as Paupert's ligament. So what is this? It is the lower upturned margin of the external oblique aponeurosis. Okay, fine. Now above this, or you can say above the mid inguinal point. So mid inguinal point is where it is between the ASIS and your pubic symphysis, where you take these 2 points, and the midpoint would be somewhat over here. So above the mid inguinal point, just around half inches above it, there is a gap over here, a oval shaped gap in the abdominal wall layers. Out of that, one layer would be having this gap. That gap is known as a deep inguinal ring. Now from this gap, which is deeper in location, deeper means posterior in location, you have a canal which is running inferior-medially, which goes where? It goes to another gap lying in the anterior layer of the abdominal wall, which is known as superficial inguinal ring. So there are two gaps over here, two gaps located, one gap in a deep layer, one gap in a superficial layer. If you've gone through the layers of the anterior abdominal wall, this deep inguinal ring, or DIR, is a gap in the fascia known as the fascia transversalis, and the superficial inguinal ring is a gap located superficial, so close to the skin. So which is that layer close to the skin? We have the superficial fascia. Deep to it, we have an external oblique, so it is a gap in the external oblique aponeurosis. So there are two gaps in layers. One is deep inguinal ring, one is superficial inguinal ring. The area around the deep inguinal ring is said to be the entry point, and this is known as the exit point. What are the locations? The deep inguinal ring is located just above the mid inguinal point. The superficial inguinal ring is located above the pubic tubercle, where superior to the pubic tubercles. Okay, so superficial inguinal ring is like a triangular gap, and it has two cruras. These are known as two cruras, a lateral and a medial crura. So these cruras, they try to stretch, and the location of this ring happens to be somewhere around mainly superior, but yes, slightly superior laterally also. So that is the location of superficial inguinal ring, in the which layer? In the external oblique aponeurotic layer. So these are two gaps. Now the canal is between these two gaps. Okay, so if now we try to define the canal is an oblique. Why oblique? Because it is not horizontal, it is not vertical, it is oblique at an angle, and also it is coming from posterior to anterior. You can see the deep ring and the superficial ring. So it is not straight anyways, it is an oblique, intermuscular. So it is passing between the muscle layers. Now as we know that in the anterior abdominal wall there are so many layers, we just have a look at them. It is an oblique intermuscular passage or canal. It is an oblique intermuscular passage or canal. Okay, where above, not below, above the medial half of the inguinal ligament. So there is the exact location of it. So exact location is, see, we have this whole of the inguinal ligament from here to here. Okay, now above it, in the medial half, so this is the medial half of the inguinal ligament. Above this you have an oblique intermuscular passage through the anterior abdominal wall. That is your inguinal canal. That is your inguinal canal. So remember, this inguinal canal is present inside the, it is present inside the anterior abdominal wall, oblique intermuscular passage. Why is it? I told you, mainly development process, the descent of the testes. It passes through this inguinal canal. Okay, now let us try to see the layers and then things will be okay. Now before that, let me tell you, and a quick revision, if you have gone through the previous videos then you will be remembering it. If not, then let me tell you that when we talked about the origin of the internal oblique muscles, I repeat again, when we talked about the origin or the proximal attachment of the internal oblique muscles, we said that internal oblique, if I represent with this orangish color, came from the lateral two-third of the inguinal ligament. So lateral two-third would be somewhat over here. Agreed. So this is your origin of the lateral two-third of the inguinal ligament, or you can say origin of the internal oblique muscles. Now if we talk of the origin of the transversus abdominis, transversus abdominis fibers are coming from the lateral one-third. So this would be only lateral one-third. So up till here only you have the transverse abdominis muscles, and from here to here, this green color will tell you that from here to here you have the whole origin of the internal oblique fibers. So what does it mean? It is actually showing us that this deep inguinal ring is actually directly under the internal oblique, not the transverse abdominis. I repeat again, the deep inguinal ring, which is a gap, a hole in the fascia transversalis, is directly behind the internal oblique, not directly behind the transverse abdominis. Keep that in mind. Now we'll see the all the layers. Now if you see all the layers, and this is the, say, the superficial area over this side, over the upper part of your screen, and the deeper areas over the posterior, the lower part of your screen. And if suppose this dotted line is showing you the midline areas, the dotted line is showing the midline areas. Okay, now let us see the layers. If we look at the layers, then the first layer obviously is going to be the skin. Fine. Beneath the skin, what we are going to have? Beneath the skin, we are going to have the layers of superficial fascia, both the campus and the scarpas. So this over here is our SKIN, and this over here is our S.FASCIA fascia. Beneath the superficial fascia, what are we going to have is the external oblique. Yes or no? External oblique aponeurosis. I'm just writing EO. Beneath the external oblique, we are going to have the internal oblique. So we are going to have the internal oblique. So this is a transverse section taken at the anterior abdominal wall at the lower set of the inguinal region, or at the area of inguinal region. Below this internal oblique, we are going to have making full over here, but actually it is not present totally, transverse abdominis. Why? Because we saw that it is only up till the lateral one-third of the inguinal ligament. Just for the easy, we are showing it. Below or behind this, we have the fascia transversalis. So this color could be representing us the fascia transversalis. Behind the fascia transversalis, what are we going to have is your extraperitoneal layer with the parietal peritoneum, So these are the things. This is the midline, so I'm just writing MID, mid over here. These are the sides, so I'm writing L and L for laterals. Now look at the two holes over here. The two holes which we are saying were actually formed where? One hole was formed in the fascia transversalis, that was the deep inguinal ring. So this hole is representing our DIR. One gap was in the external oblique aponeurosis, right near to the midline, that was our SIR, superficial inguinal ring. And if you connect both of them, that was an oblique. Now that represents as the oblique intermuscular passage. That is what? It is an oblique intermuscular passage. Okay, in the anterior abdominal wall. Entry point is what? Entry point also we can very well see this is the DIR. Exit point, it comes down, it goes down from here, the testes along with the spermatic cord, and that will be in the scrotum. So this is the entry point over here. I'm just writing entry point, and that is your SIR will become the exit point. Clear? Now try to understand. As the DIR started, DIR has a gap in the fascia transversalis, which is a muscle in front of it. The muscle in front of it is transversus abdominis, but transversus abdominis, if you look over here, is only from the lateral one third. So will transversus abdominis cover DIR? The answer is no. So therefore, if you look over here again, then this thing that is a DIR and the inguinal canal, that will go below the transversus abdominis, because transversus abdominis is above it. So the transversus abdominis is not going to obstruct the passage. So what is obstruction word over here which I'm using? The word obstruction, if I'm using over here, I mean that during development the testes were located over here. Yes or no? Both the testes were located in the posterior abdominal wall. And as the testes they started to progress, they started to descend with the gubernaculum which was pulling them. So gubernaculum is said to be a elastic tissue material, fibrotic tissue, which is pulling down the gonads to the labioscrotal swelling. So as the gubernaculum started to pull them, they took a layer of peritoneum also, and that layer of peritoneum is known as the processus vaginalis. So this part of the peritoneum, or it is known as a tube of peritoneum, which is known as a tube of, because it forms a tube. The tube of peritoneum which the testes will take. Why not ovary? Because ovaries are stuck there only. So ovaries don't pass through the canal. So when applied over here is why this testes only. So this tube peritoneum is known as the processus vaginalis. Processus vaginalis. Okay, now the testes will take this processus vaginalis, which will be just anterior to the testes like this. They will be covering the testes like this in a double layered fold, and then they will be passing through the canal. So first structure they pass is this fascia transversalis, because fascia transversalis is present throughout. Fascia transversalis, this layer is present throughout the posterior abdominal wall. So this testes and the processus vaginalis, first of all they will encounter the fascia transversalis. They will try to poke a hole in it. Once they try to poke a hole in the fascia transversalis, they will be successful in poking the hole. But while poking the hole, some tissue of the fascia transversalis will be formed as a covering, covering this testes with the along the process vaginalis, and that part of tissue which is taken up with the fascia transversalis is known as internal spermatic fascia. So that is your internal spermatic fascia, which is also covering of the spermatic cord and the testes. Now fine, so this is your first covering was our peritoneum, processus vaginalis. Then the second covering of this gonad became the internal spermatic fascia. Fine. Now the journey started. Journey is going from posterior to anterior. Then it will go below the transversus abdominis, so there is no part for the transversus abdominis which it needs to poke a hole in it. But then it will go anteriorly. Now anteriorly as it go, what it reaches where the lowermost fibers of the internal oblique muscle. So as it brushes below the internal oblique, it won't be poking any hole in the internal oblique. It was just like this, you have to pass underneath something, and that structure is the internal oblique lowermost fibers. So it will just pass underneath those internal oblique fibers, which will pass the testes along with the processes along with the internal spermatic fascia. And as it passes underneath the internal oblique fibers, it will take some fibers from the internal oblique. So it will going to take some fibers from the internal oblique at this location, which are known as your cremasteric fibers. Cremasteric fibers, also known as cremasteric fascia, with some of its muscle fibers. So cremasteric muscle is derived from the internal oblique. Clear? Now it is going more inferior medial. Look at the direction over here. The direction is going in this one. Now it is going more inferior medial. You can see over here the direction again is from lateral to medial, lower down. So it is direction here is also inferior medial. So now it has passed underneath the internal oblique, which is the next lateral encounter. Now it encounters the external oblique muscle. Again it has to poke a hole in it. Why? Because it has to go down, and that poking a hole in it again will see, once you poke a hole in any structure, and as you pierce it and perforate and pass through it, then some part of that structure comes along with you. So that part from the external oblique is known as external spermatic fascia. So now it has pierced the external oblique muscle, taking a small part of fascia, which is known as external spermatic fascia, that will also be covering this whole testes. And then it goes down, it goes into the scrotal sac. That is the whole picture. So now coming back to the topic, that what we have just revised or covered over here is that suppose these are the gonads, that is the testes. So along its journey, what it is going to make a covering out of it? First, it is going to make a covering from the peritoneum, which is known as processus vaginalis. Processus vaginalis. One word over here. See, this was the whole canal. As the testes passed through it, it took a tube of the peritoneum. So ultimately, the tube of the peritoneum will be going with the testes into the scrotum, and finally the testes will be sitting over here nicely inside the scrotum. And that tube of peritoneum also will be covering the testes in a double layer over here, which is known as tunica vaginalis. And what is this known as? That was a processus vaginalis. So normally what happens is that this process vaginalis, it degenerates or disappears. It degenerates or disappears. Only this part is left, that is a tunica vaginalis. That is a tunica vaginalis. Now in a few cases, when this process of vaginalis is not it didn't disappear, it didn't degenerated, then it is forming a clear-cut hernial sac directly from the abdominal cavity inside into the scrotal sac. That leads to a congenital hydrocele or the congenital hernias. That is one of the this main reasons for the congenital hydrocele, congenital hernias. Normally disappears, but in those children whom it doesn't disappear, if it is very thin, it will lead to hydrocele. If it is slightly bigger, it may lead to congenital hernias also. Okay, so that is the thing of process vaginalis, which was the first covering. After process vaginalis, the second covering was when it poked a hole in the fascia transversalis, and that covering was the internal spermatic fascia. So remember, it is coming from FT. The third covering will be the cremasteric fascia. Remember, also over here coming from the internal oblique aponeurosis. The fourth covering outside this would be the external spermatic fascia. It's coming from the external oblique aponeurosis. All these are coverings. These form the coverings of the spermatic cord, as well as they in continuation to the testes, so they form the covering of the testes also. So remember, these coverings are coming from where? So this is how the inguinal canal is formed. The whole journey is taken a place. Remember, the transverse abdominis is from the lateral 1/3, so it will be lying above it. Then it takes a part of internal oblique, perforates the external oblique, and then it goes down. This is how the inguinal canal is formed. Now, if we talk about the walls of the inguinal canal, that what are the various walls in the inguinal canal? Why? Because that is important for the surgical anatomy part. So we have to understand. If we go back over, if we try to understand, then we write it. If we take the walls over here into consideration, then what will be the walls? This is our inguinal canal over. I am just highlighting with the red color. That is our whole inguinal canal from DIR to SIR. Anterior wall by skin fascia in the external oblique muscle. You can see this upper or the superficial most three layers. They are completely forming the anterior wall. In this side, you can see these three layers. They are completely forming what? They are completely forming the anterior wall. So anterior wall by these three layers completely. Fine. Now, other thing anterior wall is formed by, apart from these three layers, you can also see that the internal oblique was also present anteriorly in front of the deep inguinal ring, or you can say the lateral part. The lateral part of the anterior wall is by the internal oblique. So you can write over here walls, the anterior wall in its entirety by the skin, by the fascia, that is superficial fascia, and by the external oblique aponeurosis. But in the lateral 1/3 only, or in the brackets in front of DIR, anterior wall is also being formed by the internal oblique fibers or internal oblique muscle fibers, which are coming from the lateral 2/3 of the inguinal ligament. So that is the anterior wall. This is the anterior wall. Now if you go back to the picture, anterior wall done. More important and equally important is your next, that is the posterior wall. So how is the posterior wall formed? Posterior wall you can see in its entirety by this layer. Which is this layer? Fascia transversalis. So entirely by the fascia transversalis and the peritoneum. So these are in its entire extent. Okay, entire extent by these two layers. Now TA is above it. Now what about IO? See, what happens is, we talked about this in the abdominal muscle layers also, that if we write over here about the posterior wall, first of all, that in its entirety, that was in its entire extent, and the posterior wall in its entirety, it is formed by the fascia transversalis and the parietal peritoneum. Fine. Now, what we also discussed during this part of discussion in the muscles also, that there's a conjoint tendon. There's a word known as conjoint tendon, if you remember. What was conjoint tendon? That this IU over here and this T over here, they are lowermost fibers. They are lowermost fibers. They formed a conjoint tendon over here. They formed a conjoint tendon over here, also known as fox inguinalis, also known as fox inguinalis. And that conjoint tendon, it looped over the inguinal canal, and then it went behind, and it went behind the superficial inguinal ring. How to understand this? Very simple. Suppose this pen over here is the inguinal canal. Look at this, the inguinal canal of say my right side only. So my right side, this is a deep inguinal ring. That is the superficial inguinal ring. See, deep is lying posteriorly, superficial is lying anteriorly. Okay, hypothetically it is big, but normally it is around 4 centimeter. The whole inguinal ligament is around 8 centimeter, so this is half of it, that is around 4 centimeter. Now look, this was the TA. This was the TA lateral to DIR. This was the TA, trans abdominis. This was our internal oblique fibers in front of DIR. Then this my two fingers, the index finger representing the TA, and this middle finger representing the internal oblique. So they are like this. Now their lowermost fibers, they merge and they form a conjoint tendon. Conjoint tendon, also known as fox inguinalis. Fox means sickle shape. Okay, keep focusing, DIR, SIR. Now what happens is that this conjoint tendon, it will form the roof of the whole inguinal canal, because they are going horizontally, but this canal is oblique, so they are going to form the roof, and then they are going to insert where? They are going to insert into the pubic tubercle in the pecten pubis. So they are going to go behind the, or they are also going to form the posterior wall behind the superficial inguinal ring. I repeat again, have a look at it. TA is outside the DIR, lateral to DIR. This is IO. They both mix up, their lower fibers form the conjoint tendon. So IO in front of DIR, forming the lateral part of the anterior wall. They both combine, conjoint tendon, form the roof. They go behind, they form the posterior wall in the medial aspect behind the SIR. So that is our conjoint tendon. So if we come back to the walls which we are discussing, entirety by these two layers, entirety by these two layers, and the other thing, that is on the if you're taking a posterior wall, on the medial aspect, on the medial most part, you have the conjoint tendon. You have the conjoint tendon insertion, also known as F.I, fox inguinalis. Where it is lying? It is lying behind the SIR, behind the SIR, superficial inguinal ring. So basically, conjoint tendon is doing what? It is supporting the SIR from behind. Why it has to support? Because SIR is a gap. It is a weakness in the anterior abdominal wall. So when the creator of the human body, it made a hole in the wall, the creator was so kind to support that hole from behind. The same way as the creator formed a hole in the, as a form of DIR, the creator also was so kind to support it from anteriorly by the interoblique fibers. Okay, and as we have already seen that these two, how they are working, so the roof is formed by what? Roof is formed by, we already saw, conjoint tendon or the fox inguinal. These two again, fox inguinal, they form the roof. Okay, now in the posterior also it is said that when there is this this inguinal ligament, its continuation, they form the lacunar, and they form this reflected, they form this pectineal ligament. At this area, the inguinal ligament forms the reflected part, so that is known as the reflected part. So this is also a part over here in the posterior wall medially, that apart from conjoint tendon, you may also encounter the reflected part of inguinal ligament, which actually goes medially, inserts into the linea alba. That is the reflected part. So roof is formed by this. Now finally, last not the least, what will form the floor? Now floor is very simple as that. What is lying below the inguinal canal? You have the ligament, as simple as that. So floor is by the inguinal ligament. These are the various walls. Keep mainly importance is this presence of how these conjoint tendon and internal oblique, how they are protecting the SIR and the DIR. Okay, so the whole anatomy of inguinal canal. Now they may ask you, okay, what is the content of inguinal canal? Slightly difference in males and females. In males, we just said that the spermatic cord is passing. Now what is the spermatic cord? It is a cord which is having all the structures necessary for the viability of the testes. So what is testes doing down there? It is doing spermatogenesis. So why it is doing the spermatogenesis? For passage of sperm. So where is the sperm carried on? It is carried on in the ductus or the vas deferens. So that ductus or vas deferens will be in the spermatic cord. In the spermatic cord will be having all the vessels which are going to and from the testes. It will be having all the lymphatics or lymph vessels going to and from the testes. It will be having all the nerves which will be going to and from the testes. It may have also the remnants of the processus vaginalis. Remnants of processus vaginalis. This is spermatic cord name. Apart from this, as we know that the whole inguinal canal is stretched from DIR to SIR. Stretched from DIR to SIR. So there is a nerve which enters somewhere in between, that is your ilioinguinal nerve. So this nerve is also said to be a content of inguinal canal, that is your ilioinguinal nerve, root value L1. It is a branch of iliohypogastric nerve. And what it is doing, it is sensory to the root of the penis or the anterior one third of the scrotum, or in females the anterior one third of the labia majora. So main content in the male is spermatic cord along with this nerve. So this nerve is common in both males as well as females. Fine. But in females you don't have this spermatic cord because the ovaries didn't agreed with the gubernaculum to go down into the labia majora, because oogenesis doesn't require a less body temperature for it to occur. Spermatogenesis requires 2 to 4 degrees less than the core body temperature. So what happened is the ovaries are not going to enter, but there is that gubernaculum remnant, and that is known as round ligament of uterus. That is known as round ligament of uterus, which passes through the inguinal canal. So the content becomes this round ligament of uterus. So these are the contents. Those were the walls, how they are formed, the normal anatomy of the inguinal canal, and how it behaves, how it works. So this was our inguinal canal in a nutshell. So what we discuss in the inguinal canal is, first of all, why do we need to know it? Because of the hernia. That is so important. Basic anatomy you can only understand if you know all the layers of the anterior abdominal wall. So even now, if you have not gone through it, it is advisable, high time to go through it. The link are there in the description box. Applied part is the inguinal hernias. Applied part is the inguinal hernias. So that inguinal hernia is a wholly separate topic. So we'll try to discuss that also. When the meanwhile we'll come up with the topic that is the starting of peritoneum. So although inguinal hernia is a topic of surgery, we will try to have a look at it sometime. But yes, the next video is going to be on the basics of the peritoneum. Basics of the peritoneum. So thank you for your time, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If there is anything you need to know, or any other topic, just write in the comment box. Just write in the comment box. And this is, if you like it, press the like button. If you want to subscribe, do consider subscribing it. Thank you for your time. Dr. Ankit Khandelwal, Anatomy Explained.